It does it say, oh, there we go.
There it
And
is.
we're live.
That's right.
Live on your end?
Yep.
All right, man. Guys, back on real quick. It's Dr. Casey Pride. I'm here with my very good friend, Dr. Nick Barnes, and we're having another conversation today because we want to give you guys a natural health perspective on things going on in the world today, so that you can make more informed decisions for yourselves, for your families, because ultimately the person who is responsible for your health, for your well-being, health and well-being of your family is you. And so we want to provide you with the absolute best quality information. I love bringing on experts, doctors, people who inspire me so that we can get that to you. So Dr. Nick, how you doing, buddy?
What's up, man? I'm doing great. It's great to be on, and it's been a while, so I'm glad that you reached out.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've done this, and I want to encourage people. Anytime I talk to Dr. Nick, we love to answer questions that people are throwing out to us. So if you have a comment, you have a question, feel free to type it in underneath the video, and if it'll pop up on our end here too. And if it's a good question, good comment, we'll throw it up and we'll do our best to answer it. Then, of course, if you find this information valuable, natural health topics, censorship is alive and well. We've seen a lot of, we just saw Highwire with Del Bigtree get taken down off YouTube, a whole bunch of censorship happening. So if you find this valuable, please share it. Please send it to that person who needs to hear it. Because likely if it's your first time hearing some of this information, it's going to be someone else's too, and they need to hear it as well. So please please comment, please share, let us know your questions. We'll do our best to answer them. But Dr. Nick, I don't know if you saw this or not, but I was scrolling the internet. I tend not to go on mainstream media too much because it just ends up frustrating me and angering me. But I saw an article in Forbes of all places. I'm going to throw the link on the page. That's telling people that when it comes to science, you should not do your own research.
It's crazy.
And I was shocked by that, man. What are your thoughts when you hear something like that?
I mean, so let's just Forbes.com is someplace that I actually enjoy some of their publications. Most of them, actually, I actually enjoy their publications. And what's shocking is that I don't know if they publish this in agreement or questioning why people would even actually question the medical model per se, or questioning the media. I think just the title alone says, don't do your own research. I mean, I think that is opposite of what our culture needs right now, is that we need to be delving in deeper on what is being said. You can't take things for face value anymore, especially when it's coming from the news and the media. I think it's skewed, of course, whether it's extreme left or extreme right. It's hard to find the truth somewhere. And I always say there's three stories, right? There's one side story, there's the other side story, the truth falls somewhere in between. And so to actually say you can't do your research and just take the CDC's recommendations or guidelines, or take the media's, media's skew on things, I think is just completely out of line. I think it's ridiculous. And I think it's harming people. We would never say it to our patients. We would never say, hey, don't do your own research, just get adjusted and trust me. I mean, that's just, trust me, I'm your doctor. Like, we wouldn't say that, right? I mean, so like, we want gain people's trust, but that's gained by people asking more questions. And so I think at the end of the day, whether it's parenting, whether that's leading a patient, whether it's leading your team, whether it's, going into political conversations, healthcare conversations, the best way to learn is the Socratic method of learning, which is you ask more questions. The quality of the question leads to the quality of the answer. And so for a mainstream source of publications to come out and say that is just, I think it's unbelievable.
Yeah, I'm with you. And, when I think about just how many times our public health authorities, our politicians, organized medicine have been wrong in just the last few months. It seems like it's one time after the next, after the next, after the next. And, they've done a really good job of sort of creating this, this is the language that I've used with you before, is this illusion of consensus, this idea that all the experts agree and all the doctors agree that everyone should be wearing face masks, or that, who knows, coming up soon, everyone should be getting the COVID vaccination. Everything that there's this illusion of consensus. And, you and I working in natural health and doing a lot of social media and having a big network of doctors around the country and around the world, we know that that's simply not true. We know that there is not consensus. It's the last thing in the world that there is right now. There is so much disagreement on this, and so many differing opinions. It's so important that you don't just simply accept something blindly at face value, that you really dig deep and ask some good questions about the information you're getting. Is there conflict of interest? Is the person putting the information out stand to gain politically, financially, personally? You want to ask these questions and then make an informed decision made based on those questions. So,
well, I think secondary to that is always being willing to ask questions, right? I mean, that's how we're continuing to even influence our own personal health and build our foundation of our belief system and mindset and how we manage our own health and our family's health, is that we're always saying, okay, let's step back, let's question this, let's filter this out. Even with things that we were told 10 years ago, it's drastically changed. Many things have drastically changed. And so I think it's healthy to always be questioning with an open mind.
Sure. Yeah, and there's a statistic that I heard recently that in 10 years, half of the things that have been, quote, proven to be true, we're going to find out weren't true, or were incomplete, or were inaccurate. And so being able to always ask questions, always challenge the narrative, that's where innovation happens. That's where creativity happens, and that's where you find the truth. It's that kind of push and pull where you end up finding the truth.
Yep.
So I saw,
and where you get meaningful conversation. I mean, it's huge, right? I mean, if you're not willing to go deeper and ask questions to yourself or to other people with a good mindset, with a positive mindset, then the conversation is very surface level, right? And so be willing to ask questions without having to have the answer right away.
Yeah. Kind of put aside that need to be right and just approach everything with curiosity.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with asking why.
Yeah.
So, hey, with all this COVID stuff, I've been kind of praying for a lot of good news. And it seems like we've finally gotten some good news. There was this breakthrough piece of research that was done at WashU that we can be excited about.
Yep.
That what they have said, and I'm going to actually quote the article here. What WashU has found is that new findings from researchers at Washington University in St. Louis point to a theory that suggests that patients become ill because their immune systems can't do enough to protect them from the virus.
Yeah.
Breakthrough.
Thanks to my hometown. One of the colleges is my hometown, right? I think it's it's unbelievable that more people haven't questioned why the media, why left or right, why the CDC, why Fauci, whoever it is making these decisions and choices and statements. It's shared across the board, but why it's been avoid, cover up your face, cover up your eyes, cover your hands. Why do we have a shortage of toilet paper? Why do we have a shortage of hand sanitizer? Why in the world are distilleries actually joining the hand sanitizer business? I think it comes down to, like, why are we not asking more questions of more about health promotion? Why is that not happening? And so whether you are pro-mask, anti-mask, it's completely, my biggest thing is freedom of choice. Whether you're completely scared or not scared at all, whether you want your kids to go back to school or you don't, like, it's completely freedom of choice. But at the end of the day, we have to question. We have to question why we haven't been told how to boost our immune system through this time. It's just unbelievable that more people haven't asked that question and haven't demanded that question. Because unfortunately, as an American population and culture, we are completely uneducated when it comes to health. We have the most access to healthcare. We have the most access to information via the web, but we don't really know how to apply it to our lives. And so I've said this before in the past, I think when we've been on the air, and it's, getting healthy, the principles are simple, but doing it's challenging. And so why can't they give us, 3, 5, 7, 10 action steps that we can do to boost our immune system? Because we don't need cutting edge research to tell us that having a stronger immune system is going to keep us from getting serious symptoms from COVID and expressing any symptoms from COVID, and maybe even ever getting COVID in general, right? I think that's just one of the things that it's hypocrisy to say don't do something and just stay in your home without the yin and yang side of that, which is, hey, but while you're at your home, do X, Y, or Z. I just think it's crazy.
Yeah, and that's the one thing where there's not a doubt in my mind that this is more about control than it is about health. Because if it was about health,
yep.
You can just tell the population, hey, guys, don't eat sugar.
Yep.
Like if you don't want to shut your immune system down, if you want to strengthen your immune system down, just don't eat sugars, cut soda from your diet. I mean, you can do that. You can say that one thing, and immediately the vast majority of the population would boost their immune system. They'd be healthier for it.
Right.
You know,
right.
So this idea that the only answer, like we've talked about, is stay clean, stay separate, without even a conversation about health. That's how I know it's not about health.
No,
we're not talking about building health.
No way. This is, and I've said this with patients and some family members. Like, this was the opportunity. Okay, if there's any opportunity such as this, when people are let's say woke, when people are woke, right, to a healthcare crisis, individually, even in your own home and outside of our home, that someone could have stepped up as a leader and said, hey, we don't really know what's going to happen with this virus. We've never been really dealt with this in the last 100 years. But what we do know is that if you do X, Y, or Z, get outside and exercise, drink more water, cut out sugar, just those 3 things, or throw in sleep, right? Just if you do these 3 or 4 things, that it's going to strengthen your immune system. And we know that to be a fact. So let's at least try to do that and, stay clean, do it, whatever agenda was out there, right, for that. This was the perfect opportunity for someone to step up and do that. But listen, our country has no leader when it comes to healthcare, except for individuals who are willing to go out there on the ledge right where we're at, and say, hey, listen, I'm not going to push you towards health, but we're going to walk with you towards health. And we're going to take you to this whole new level of health. And you know what it requires? It requires a mission. It requires a vision, because right now you can't look at your neighbor. Many of us can't look at our neighbor or our pastor or our financial advisor or someone in our family and say, listen, they're living a healthy lifestyle and the results prove it. They're the last people to get surgery. They're the last people to get medication. They're taking full responsibility for their health. Very few people in our country can actually have somebody to follow and lead. And that's where we've completely gone wrong, where our culture could have said, listen, it's time to boost our immune system. Someone's got to step up and do this. But it was all based off of fear and fear mongering. And that's where we completely lost course. And I think what happened is that it's not any leadership, lack of leadership. Of course, that's a whole nother talk. But I believe our culture doesn't want to hear taking responsibility. So the media is not going to say, hey, you're going to be fine. Just do the next 10 things to boost your immune system. They say, no. Just stay in your home, avoid everybody, be divisive, and then don't care about your health whatsoever. And you should be fine, maybe. I just think it's unbelievable that it took a WashU to put out research saying that just maybe something suggested that your immune system may actually impact your ability to fight off COVID. It's crazy.
Oh gosh, and this is a conversation that we've been having in chiropractic and natural health for hundreds of years. It's like this is common sense to us. So as soon as I saw that article, my first thought was just, duh.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Is this a surprise? If this is a surprise to you and you're a health authority, that's a problem.
Yep, absolutely.
And like you said, when it comes to contagious illness like this, it's not sick people that become unhealthy. You don't get sick from COVID and then become unhealthy.
Yep.
You're unhealthy first.
That's
you
right.
have a lower resistance first, and then you get sick. I mean, same is true with virtually every chronic disease. It's unhealthy people who get sick. That's why when we see these people who are having the worst responses to COVID, they're people who are already sick. They're people who have heart disease, diabetes, obesity, compromised immune systems, right? They say that we're supposed to be wearing these masks and stuff for the immunocompromised. And the fact that the idea of boosting your immune system in response to that is such a new idea, such a crazy, wild breakthrough idea, is such a shocker to me. But I wanted to get your thought on this, because I know you take care of a lot of you're really comprehensive in your approach to health. You're addressing structure, you're addressing chemistry, you're addressing a lot of things when it comes to people getting well. What's your experience around healthy people being exposed to COVID compared to sick people being exposed to COVID?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's 2 things. There's avoidance and there's exposure. And avoidance, let's just face it, is not logical and it's not sustainable. We know that to be true. I mean, in a year from now, people are going to be hugging us, hopefully. In a year from now, masks will be gone, hopefully. Sanitizers aren't going to be selling as much as they are today. I just think those are the 2 questions we have to ask. Is it logical? Is it sustainable? Avoiding people is not. I mean, let's just face it. I mean, people are going to go back and watch the Blues. People are going back and watch the Cardinals, right? Here and say that building's not going to perish because people are scared to go watch the Cardinals. Like I just feel like, which is a good thing, right? And then there's exposure, and exposure means you're willing to be exposed to not just COVID, but trillions of viruses and bacterial infections in our culture because you're taking responsibility and managing your health. Okay. Now, recently I had a family of 4 come into the clinic. They've actually been patients for years, and they called frantically and they said, listen, our daughter has COVID. Our daughter has COVID. And so, of course, they're taking their precautions. They're trying to avoid their daughter. You know what that means? Not really avoiding their daughter because they love her and she loves them and she needs physical touch and she needs to eat dinner with them and, be in the same household as them. And they came to the clinic off hours, and they were just the mom and dad cornered me and they go, listen, like, we don't know why this is, but we all got tested for COVID. She was positive. She has no symptoms whatsoever. She feels fine, but we all tested negative for COVID. And they asked me why, and I just went into the questioning of saying, hey, so out of 4 of you, who's the least healthy, who gets the least amount of sunlight, who has the least amount of social contact? That was huge, social contact. And they go, what do you mean? I go, who's the least involved with friendships? Who's the least involved with the church? Who's least involved in the community? Who doesn't take their vitamins? Who has the worst spine? And I knew that answer. Her spine was the worst out of the family of 4, and the health of the spine affects the health of your immune system. Research proves that. Who gets the least amount of exercise? She did. Who has the worst sleep patterns? She did. And so I was asking these questions, and you kind of just see a light bulb go off. Like, this makes sense that out of 4 of us, she has the most immunocompromised health. And she has the weakest, weakest immune system, not by diagnosis, okay, not by diagnosis or blood work, but because of her lifestyle. Mm-hmm. And so, she enters the conversation, and she's old enough to handle it. She's a teenager, and at first she was kind of like discouraged, but actually I saw a light bulb go off in her mind, saying like, wait, this actually makes sense. This is actually, I know the cause of it now. The cause of her being diagnosed with COVID wasn't the virus. The cause of her being diagnosed with COVID was actually her inability to adapt to the exposure that they all had. Okay, so the inability to adapt to your environment is what leads you to COVID. So that's a personal thing. And she did take it personally. At first it was negative, right? But then she goes, well, that makes sense. Now it makes me want to go exercise more. It makes me want to get outside and get some vitamin D. I'm going to make up my adjustments because she was missing some adjustments. I'm going to take my supplements. I'm going to listen to what my mom and dad have been telling me for years at this point, that I need to drink more water and I need to get better sleep. Right. And so just that double-blind study alone and explanation to those parents alone actually made sense to them, and it gave them answers that, they're not at a loss. They're not victims to their environment. She's not a victim in her environment. And they actually have answers now of things that they can actually do to prevent her ever getting symptoms from COVID and to prevent them from actually carrying COVID for a certain period of time. And so that was that just happened this past week. I think people need to hear that there's power and responsibility, right? For instance, and it goes for any disease, whether it's chronic, lifestyle induced, or an environmentally caught virus. That if somebody who has, let's say, type 2 diabetes, if they say, I just got a horrible diagnosis of type 2 diabetes, but they followed up with this statement but that makes sense because for the last 10 years I've ignored my health. There's power and responsibility, right? There's power and choice moving forward. And so I think our culture has had that stripped away from us, that we get diagnosed with something, whether it's a virus or a chronic illness, and we're never taught that there's actually, well, what's the next steps? What do we do now? What's your mindset about that now? Because if you take responsibility in that, then there's power in that, and that there's victory in that, because you're never stagnant. You're either moving in the right direction or the wrong direction. And I think, when it comes to the immune system, it's the same thing. You're moving in the right direction or the wrong direction. For instance, I have friends coming in town this week. I know I'm probably going to be off my nutritional program. I know I'm probably not going to get the right amount of sleep, right? And probably, some other things that aren't going to be really healthy for me. But I know that I have to do other things to help detox and help my immune system. And I can't just be, well, I don't know why I don't feel good today, right? No, there's a cause to everything. And whether it's the immune system getting stronger or weaker, that can lead us to become victims of our environment, or victors in our environment.
Oh, I love that. Victim versus victor. Yeah, I love what you say about responsibility and empowerment, because a lot of people, in my experience, at least in my practice, people kind of mix the idea of responsibility with the idea of blame. Where it's like, you're responsible for where you are in your health at some level, and they kind of associate that with some shame, blame, and guilt. I don't look at it that way at all. When you find out that you're in control of your health, and that likely a lot of the decisions you've made in your lifestyle, whether you knew it or not, have moved you to where you are today. Yeah, you are responsible, but that's not blame. Maybe you were doing the best you could with the information that you have, but that puts you in control. I mean, that is empowering, because if you made choices that led you to here, what do you have to do now?
Yeah.
Just make different choices.
Yep.
Make different choices. Change how you eat, change how you exercise. You have the power to, if you're moving down this path, to completely change direction if you just make different choices. And that's what I love about, our type of work is we put people in the driver's seat. We give them their power back that's been taken from them by a model that says you have no control. Disease is something that just happens to you. You're either lucky or you're unlucky, and you have no choice in it. You better just stay clean and stay away from people. Not true.
Yeah.
And that's not the paradigm that we work in. We work in an empowerment paradigm. Right. So I'm so glad you said that, man.
Oh, and I mean, let's face it. We'll use a car analogy. Put people in the driver's seat. We're the backseat driver that everyone wants to have, right? We're the one that's telling you how to get around in the city you don't know about. And so you're listening to every word we say, but questioning, hey, you're still at the wheel. Should I go left here, or should I make a U-turn? Right? Should I miss the next couple lights? We're still in the car with you, whether you're listening to us or not. Right? We're not gonna leave our patients and our family and friends behind, because at the end of the day, whether you listen to us or not, you're always going to come back into the clinic. You're always going to come to the clinic, because why? The answer to health is not in our culture. And we are counterculture. And so we're going to be that annoying backseat driver that you absolutely need to get around your town, because we're not looking for perfection, but we want progress. We want progress. And so our immune system, we want progress in our immune system, not perfection. Perfection, we will always fail. And that goes for any crisis, any illness, any virus that we're trying to prevent, because at the end of the day, we're all going to die from something. Maybe 120 years old, maybe we're going to live that long. But at the end of the day, I want to be able to say, listen, whether I get COVID or not, whether I have cancer or not, whether I have heart disease someday or not, I want to look at my family and friends and be like, listen, hey, I took responsibility as much as I could. And I had a good freaking life. And this is taking me down, but I want to look back at my health and with no regrets and say, thank goodness I had a backseat driver. I questioned everything they said, but listen, they gave me a roadmap to go. They needed a roadmap to go. And maybe I listened. Maybe I didn't listen, but I can't say I didn't know. We can't say we didn't know now. That's the one thing about the study from WashU that I'm thankful for, is that you can't say you didn't know the immune system matters. You just can't, right? And so if you haven't seen that article, make sure you look it up, because it's huge.
Yep, and I threw it up on the screen, and you can find that again. Just go back and watch this interview, and you'll be able to see it. There's one more article I wanted to show, because we're talking about empowerment. We're talking about taking control of your health, and we really have one of two directions that we can go with this. We can go of one where we just abandon our health whatsoever. So our only choice is to have to separate and have to distance, because we have no resistance to these microbes. Or we can try and build health and stay well. And there was an article that came up that Dr. Fauci is now recommending that people wear, he's suggesting that people wear goggles or eye shields for better protection against coronavirus. And so I think the question that we have to ask ourselves right now is that the direction we want to go? Do we want to go a direction where we have to dress like freaking astronauts or like World War pilots everywhere we go when we go in public? I mean, that actually looks pretty cool. You might be able to sell me on this one. I mean, is that really the direction we want to go, where we're dressed like we're dressed in these hazmat suits to even go have coffee with our friends? Or do we want to take ownership and begin to make better choices so that we're resilient? We have a strong immune system and we don't have to live in fear.
Yeah, I think goggle sales are increasing as we speak.
I just can't take you seriously with those.
Well, it's hard to, right?
The viewership just jumped up as soon as you put those on. I saw the numbers just jump.
When was that put out? When was that recommendation put out by Fauci? Do you know?
Oh, you know what? I'll have to go back to the link. I want to say it was within the last couple of weeks.
Oh God.
And you know what? I just can't get on board with that. You know,
No.
and the question I think we have to ask ourselves too is really, where do we draw the line? You know, you might be okay with the face mask. You might be okay with some of these distancing protocols, but at what point do you put your foot down and say no? You know, and my hope is it's now, or we're getting there, because we need people to start speaking up on this if you want health policy to change.
Yeah, I think it's crazy. I mean, I think that it's just ludicrous. I mean, some of the things that they're currently happening just in personal experiences. I mean, I saw a gentleman go into a restaurant the other day, and you know, he had a bandana, so he put the bandana, held it over his face. I wouldn't have even done that, so that was nice of him. He held it over his face, and they're like, "No, sir, you have to have it a mask." He goes, "This is my mask," and so literally he just tied it around his head, and they go, "Okay, now you can come in." Like, it was the same amount of like fabric, the same exact fabric, but now it was tied, so now they consider that a mask. And unfortunately, what I'm seeing is the judgment that's occurring, even within families. You know, it breaks my heart to think that there's pressure on somebody because they're choosing not to or to wear a mask. See, there's judgment on both sides, and I think that's one of the issues that I'm seeing in our culture is where we know a lot of these churches, a lot of these businesses, many organizations are not making it mandatory because they're scared of COVID. I mean, we know that's just, it can't be true. I think there's a bigger population that's happening out there with leaders in businesses or schools or churches to where, you know, they don't want to be judged by the media. I mean, that's a huge concern. You know, some of the best restaurants here in town, you know, I know the owners, and I know that they're like, we just think the COVID thing is just not, it's all it's cracked up to be. Our staff is even comfortable with it. Many of our patrons who are coming out to eat dinner, they're not worried about it, but we literally have to tell people to wear a mask from the hostess, the outside hostess desk, to an outside seating, an outside table. It's literally 15 feet away. And we're just doing it so we're protecting our butt, because if we get found out about that someone has COVID, then the media is going to be the person that's going to just destroy us. And unfortunately, I think that's majority of what's happening when it comes to establishments that are forcing people to wear masks. And that's a huge concern for me, because whenever we're policing each other and the media is policing us, I mean, it's a huge concern. And that's one of the things I'm really worried about, especially with schools, is that, you know, you got so many people, you got teachers involved who are judging other kids' parents because they want their kids to go to school 5 days a week. And you get the superintendent and like the board or the PTO. And then you got, you know, finances is an issue and all this stuff, this crazy stuff. It's just literally judgment after judgment after judgment, whether you're for school or against school, or for a mask or against a mask. And I think that's one of the things that the biggest concern is that we've lost freedom of choice because we're judging each other so much, and we're destroying people's mentality and mindset and choices.
Yeah, I think one of the worst things that you can do is assume someone's motive with the choices that they make. And I see so much of that where people assume that if you're making this choice, it must mean this. You know, they must not care about other people if they make. Thanks for taking those off, man. I like seeing your eyes. But you must, if you make XYZ choice, then you must believe XYZ thing. And people don't take the time to really understand why people are making the choices they make. And one of the best things that we can do right now is just have conversations like this with people we may agree with, we may disagree with, and come in without judgment and just, hey, why are you doing that? You know, why are you making that choice? And just seek to understand, you know, in these conversations, just listen to understand instead of listening to disagree.
That's right.
And it would be such a valuable, you know, way for us to connect with each other and communicate. And I think we make a lot more progress that way than simply making these big assumptions about other people and their choices. So, well, man, it's good seeing you.
You too, man.
Yeah, and you know what? Anytime I talk with people on here, I want to give you the last word. What does the world need to hear? What do they need to know from you right now?
Mm. Good question. I think that they're more powerful. You're more powerful as an individual more than you can ever imagine. And if you start off your day in conversation in that mindset, other people need to feel it and other people need to hear it. And you are influencing more people than you know, whether you have a leadership position or not. People are watching, people are listening. And if you make a stand on whatever that topic or subject or foundation is, if you make a stand, it's more respected than wavering back and forth. So stand firm on what you believe, no matter what that belief is. Always be willing to question it. But as a culture, we just need to stop wavering back and forth and know who you are and whose you are. So that was a lot of things I just said, but that's what came off the heart, man. Yeah,
I love it. Well, guys, thanks for watching, and Dr. Nick, thanks for talking to me, man. We'll do this again soon. And like I said at the beginning, if this information helps you, if you know someone who this would help, please share it. Send it out to that person, to those people. World needs to hear this stuff. We got to wake some people up. We got to create a shift now, because if we don't, we're going to keep moving the direction we're going. So, Dr. Nick, thank you, brother.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, we'll chat soon, and everybody have a great weekend.
See you guys.